"If you're really that damn smart," he sneered, slapping the contract flat on the counter, "then translate this." The words cut through the cozy buzz of Old Town Cafe like a blade. Forks stalled midair. Even the old jukebox seemed to hush its Motown murmur. But Talia Brooks didn't flinch. She lowered her gaze to the thick legal stack, Hearth merger papers that had already humbled 3 of Atlanta's priciest attorneys, and blinked once. She was 21, black, in a faded gray apron that smelled like hash browns and burnt coffee. Yet somehow, she stood taller than the man in the navy suit. Grant Hawthorne wasn't accustomed to being challenged. At 50, he'd built Hawthorne Systems from a tiny Boston coding shop into a billion-dollar tech empire now anchored in downtown Atlanta. Boardrooms feared his icy blue stare, clean-cut jaw, and constant advantage. But tonight, he wasn't in glass and chrome. Tonight, he sat in a diner with chipped mica tables and a neon sign that flickered like a tired heartbeat, because his sure-thing merger was unraveling. He'd ducked in to think. The waitress had brought coffee, then noticed the storm on his face. He'd wanted silence. Life delivered Talia instead. Red ink clawed along the margin of a clause labeled Conditional Termination on Market Disruption. "Looks like you're wrestling a bear," she'd said, setting down water with a gentle smile. Grant hadn't looked up. "It's a contract. You wouldn't get it." "I might," she replied. That's when he snapped. It's when. Now Talia stood steady, one hand on her hip, the other reaching for a nearby notepad. "Is this the full contract?" she asked, calm as Sunday morning. Grant lifted a brow. "Does it matter?" "It does," she said. "Context changes everything." He didn't answer, just shrugged like he was humoring a child. Talia flipped pages with quiet control, eyes moving faster than most people read menus. The cafe clattered around her, silverware, laughter, greasy plates, but she seemed to step into a clean, silent place where only logic lived. "Here," she said, tapping a section with her pen. "This is the trap. They can walk if your stock drops more than 7% after announcement," she said. Grant blinked. "That's not wrong." Talia nodded, still reading. "But market disruption isn't defined. That's a loophole big enough to drive a truck through. They can manufacture the excuse and call it disruption." She kept going. "And this escrow, $400 million locked with no release triggers? That isn't partnership, that's leverage." Grant leaned forward, the diner suddenly fading. "How do you even see that?" Talia didn't look up. "I used to live in documents like these. Emory pre-law," she said, voice flat with fact, not pity. "Then my mom got sick. Rent didn't care. Dialysis didn't care. So I started flipping pancakes." Something shifted behind Grant's eyes, small, sharp, uncomfortable. He studied her hands. No shaking, no bluff. She was certain. "I'm surprised you stayed in town," he said, trying for dry. Talia finally met his stare. "And I'm surprised you walked in here thinking nobody could outsmart you." The line landed clean, quick, surgical. The booth felt like a ring now, not a table. Grant sat back, caught off guard. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about stock charts or board votes. He was thinking about the woman across from him. Young, yes, but unshaken. "What's your name?" he asked. "Talia," she said. "Talia Brooks." He nodded slowly, like he was filing her away in a place he didn't use often. She slid the contract back toward him. "Fix Clause 7C. Add a trigger on escrow." Grant's jaw tightened. "You're serious?" Talia's mouth twitched. "I was serious before you insulted me. I'm being generous now." Her notepad showed tight, clear notes, no fluff, no drama, just incision. "Can I buy you coffee?" Grant asked, awkward for the first time in a decade. Talia glanced at his untouched mug. "You already did." Then she turned toward the kitchen, steps steady, head high, like she'd just walked out of a courtroom. Grant stared after her, then down at the contract. Suddenly readable. He didn't know it yet, but the most important meeting of his life hadn't happened under a chandelier or behind a mahogany door. It had happened beneath a buzzing neon sign over black coffee and humility. Before we dive back in, tell me where you're watching from. Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's story hits even harder. The neon buzz softened as Grant folded the contract and stood. His coffee had gone cold. Talia had vanished into the back without a backward glance. He hovered near the exit, staring at the swinging kitchen flap, then left without a word. That night, sleep wouldn't come. In his downtown penthouse, city lights fractured across the ceiling like broken glass. Talia Brooks kept replaying in his head, her calm, her precision, her refusal to shrink. His ego had taken a hit, yes, but it was deeper than pride. It was recognition. He kept hearing her voice. Steady, not loud, not begging for permission. She wasn't pretending to be smart. She was smart. By morning, Grant had his legal team recheck Clause 7C and escrow triggers. They confirmed it. Talia was right. What burned him wasn't the risk. It was how easily she saw it. Later, in a gleaming boardroom full of $1,000 suits, Grant's mind drifted back to chipped counters and cheap coffee. He pictured Talia reading billion-dollar language like it was a grocery list. The contrast made him restless. By Wednesday, he found himself outside Old Town Cafe again, standing like a man unfamiliar with hesitation. Lunch rush spilled noise through the cracked open door. When he stepped in, heads turned, not from recognition, but because he looked like money walking into a place built for survival. Talia saw him instantly, balancing water glasses with practiced ease. Her sneakers were scuffed, her apron loose. Her eyes said, "I remember." "Back for the eggs?" she asked, voice neutral. Grant walked to the counter. "Back for you," he said bluntly. A pause snapped tight between them. She set the tray down and leaned in just enough. "I'm working." "I'll wait," he said. "I need to say thank you. You saved me from a disaster." Talia blinked, slow. "You sure you want to be seen thanking a waitress?" Grant slid onto a stool. "That's the thing," he said. "I don't think you're just a waitress." She crossed her arms. "Then what do you think I am?" He held her gaze. "Someone who understands systems. Someone who sees through language. Someone who could outthink half my associates if anyone stopped judging your apron," he added. Talia stared, unreadable. "So what? This is you offering me a job?" "Not exactly," he said. "I'm offering a conversation, off the clock. No suits, no condescension. Just coffee, my treat this time." She studied him for a long beat, then nodded once. "Come back at 10. That's when my shift ends. If you're serious, you'll wait." Grant didn't flinch. "I'm serious." Talia turned away like she'd already decided the terms. "Then, I guess we'll see," she said, disappearing into the kitchen. 10:00 p.m. arrived. The cafe thinned. The old veterans by the jukebox drifted out. The dishwasher hummed like distant thunder. Talia emerged with her apron off, hair down, hands wiped clean. She slid into the same booth from nights ago. Grant sat across from her, posture less sharp than before. "You're persistent," she said. "I'm curious," Grant replied. "How does someone who thinks like you end up here, At this counter, not in a courtroom or D.C. office. Talia inhaled, deep and controlled. Life doesn't follow scripts, Mr. Hawthorne. I had a plan, full ride, mock trial, top of my class. Then my mom's kidneys failed, she continued. Dialysis 3 times a week. Medicaid barely touched it. My little brother Jamal started fighting at school. Bills stacked like bricks. School had to wait. No tears, no begging, just truth delivered clean. I kept studying anyway. Law journals, blogs, anything I could reach. She leaned forward slightly. And I started coding, too. Built a prototype for a legal literacy app. Plain language explanations, interactive scenarios, contract translation tools. Grant's face tightened with focus. And who's going to take a waitress with a half-finished degree seriously? Talia asked, not bitter, realistic. I would, Grant said immediately. Talia arched a brow. You? The guy who called me sweetheart and told me to stick to pouring coffee? Grant's jaw clenched. I deserved that. He exhaled. But I'm not blind. I built my career spotting ideas before they become obvious. What I saw wasn't casual talent. It was brilliance. Talia looked down, fingertips tracing the table edge. I'm not asking for charity, she said. Grant nodded. Good. I'm not offering it. I'm offering partnership. He leaned in. Let me help you build it. Funding, developers, resources. You lead. I back you. The words hung heavy. Promise and risk in one breath. Talia stared out the window where streetlights poured gold onto the pavement. You know what the hardest part of being invisible is? She asked softly. It's not that people don't see you. It's that they look right at you and still decide you're not worth seeing. Grant's voice dropped. Then, let's make them look again. Her eyes met his. Okay, she said, but I don't want to be your project. I want to be your equal. Grant didn't hesitate. You will be. Outside, the city buzzed. Inside, possibility buzzed louder. They clinked coffee mugs like sealing something quiet but undeniable. A revolution didn't always start with a speech. Sometimes it started with respect. 3 days later, Talia walked into Hawthorne Systems headquarters. 29th floor, boardroom west, like someone stepping onto a planet built for other people. The floor gleamed like ice. Windows rose so high she felt swallowed by sky. She smoothed the collar of her thrifted navy blouse, gripping a worn binder of sketches and wireframes. Security checked her ID twice. The receptionist paused, blinked, then said, "Waitress Talia," like it was a joke that didn't need a punchline. Talia kept her chin high anyway. Grant waited inside with a sleek tablet, offering a smile that looked almost nervous, an expression she hadn't seen on him yet. "Come in," he said. "It's just us." Just us didn't erase the sting of these eyes at the front desk. Talia sat, back straight. Grant gestured to a second chair. "I had the dev team mock up interface options," he said. "Thought you'd want to see." Talia opened her binder instead. "Before visuals, we need priorities," she said, voice steady and non-negotiable. "This app has to be accessible, visually and linguistically," Talia said. "High schoolers, working-class adults, people who don't speak perfect English." Grant leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on." "Layered content," she continued. "Interactive scenarios, leases, traffic stops, unemployment applications, real life, real consequences, plain language. Law shouldn't feel like a weapon only a few people can hold." Grant nodded slowly. "You think of this alone?" Talia shrugged. "I listen, and I've been poor. That's a serious education." He almost smiled, Then a knock cut the moment. The door opened and in stepped Victor Sloan, Senior VP of Legal Affairs. Late 40s, pressed gray suit, jaw tight like kindness cost him money. Victor's gaze flicked to Talia with thinly veiled skepticism. "I thought this was a closed session," he said. "It is," Grant replied. "Talia's part of it." Victor's mouth tightened into a smile that wasn't friendly. "Right, the waitress." Talia didn't blink. "Still do weekends at Old Town," she said. "Tips are better than you think." Grant stood. "Victor, she caught 2 kill clauses your team missed." Victor's tone stayed polite, sharp underneath. "I'm sure she's very intuitive." "She's leading the project," Grant said flatly. "I want your team to support legal vetting and IP frameworks." Victor lifted a brow. "You're serious?" Grant didn't look away. "Dead serious." Victor nodded, but his face said he was filing this under mistake. "Of course, we'll cooperate." After he left, Talia exhaled, eyes dropping to the table. "He's not going to help me," she said. "He's going to stall." Grant rubbed his jaw. "He's old school." "He's a gatekeeper," Talia corrected. "And I'm not who he expects through the gate." Grant's voice lowered. "Want me to fire him?" Talia met his eyes. "No, I want to earn this, not inherit it." She leaned in. "Let me handle him, but when I ask for support, I need to know you've got my back." Grant nodded once, decisive. "You have it." That night, Talia worked in her apartment with everything she owned in one small room. Jamal sat on the couch doing algebra while their mom dozed in a recliner, heating pad pressed to her hip. The air smelled like Vicks and leftover spaghetti. On the coffee table sat a used Chromebook patched with duct tape and stickers, Talia's entire lab. Her eyes burned, but her fingers didn't stop. Jamal looked up. "You think they're going to let you finish?" Talia paused. "Finish what?" "The app, the court stuff." His voice carried a kid's honesty, fear dressed as a question. "You think those rich guys are really gonna let you?" Talia stared at him, then shook her head slowly. "I'm not waiting for permission," she said. Jamal studied her like he was trying to understand that kind of courage, then nodded and went back to his math. The next morning, Talia returned to headquarters with 4 wireframes, a sample module, and a proposal listing 10 community beta testers. Victor didn't show. Instead, his assistant emailed a redlined copy. Too ambitious. Scale back. Protect liability. Talia read it once, printed her original, and marched to Grant's office. She dropped both versions on his desk like evidence. "I'm not scaling back," she said. Grant scanned the edits in silence, then looked up. "You're right," he said. "We go with yours." Talia blinked. "That easy?" Grant shrugged. "Not easy. Necessary." She smiled. "Small, private, the kind you save for victories nobody else sees." At the door, she paused. "He's going to keep trying to block me." Grant's gaze hardened. "I know." Talia nodded. "Then be ready." Grant was already dialing a number. "I'm always ready." As she stepped into the elevator, something inside her shifted. She wasn't playing defense anymore. She was building. The doors closed with a soft ding, sealing her inside a rising glass box of possibility. This time, she didn't look down. The prototype came alive on a quiet Sunday morning just after sunrise. Talia sat cross-legged on the living room floor in pajamas, Jamal snoring behind her. Her hands hovered over the keyboard, heart hammering, as the interface blinked into view. Clean lines, simple language, a start button shaped like a courthouse gavel. She clicked begin. The first scenario loaded. "You've been pulled over by a police officer. What are your rights?" 3 buttons appeared. Say nothing. Ask why. Reach for license. Each option launched a short animated outcome, some escalating, others de-escalating, paired with plain explanations and disclaimers. The voiceover was Talia's, recorded at midnight in a whisper so she wouldn't wake her mother. It wasn't perfect. Fonts were clunky, animations jittered, but it worked. She leaned back, exhaling hard. "It lives," she whispered. 07 a.m. She emailed Grant a link. No hype, no headline, just a subject line, first breathe. 30 minutes later, her phone rang. Grant sounded almost breathless. "Is this real?" "You tell me," Talia said. He let out a stunned laugh. "You built this on a Chromebook?" "Yeah," she said. "An instant coffee. I want to show our UX team today," Grant said. "With your permission." Talia's voice sharpened. "You don't need my permission. You need my voice in the room." That afternoon, she walked into the innovation lab. Glass walls, sunlit desks, developers in hoodies. They barely looked up until Grant announced, "Everyone, this is Talia Brooks. She built what you're about to see from scratch," he said. "She's leading this project moving forward." That got attention. Some nodded. Some exchanged glances. A woman in a Stanford hoodie grinned and murmured, "Hell yeah." Talia plugged in her laptop and launched the demo. For 15 minutes, the room stayed silent except clicks and her app's calm voice. Scenarios, choices, plain speech, rights explained like humans deserved to understand them. When it ended, applause broke out. Not thunderous, but real. A developer named Luis leaned forward. "We can polish animations, optimize mobile, but the flow is tight." Another asked, "Where'd you learn design?" Talia shrugged. "From mistakes, and from watching people get hurt when they don't know their rights." Over the next 2 weeks, Talia became a fixture in the lab. UI debates, storyboarding sessions, 10 p.m. huddles fueled by diner leftovers and vending coffee. She was the youngest person in most rooms, less credentialed on paper, and often the only black woman at the table. None of it stopped her. Grant backed her publicly, but watched her leadership quietly evolve. Her style wasn't his. She asked more questions than she gave orders. She let junior designers test ideas before seniors could dominate. She listened. The app changed. It wasn't just LegalLift anymore. It felt like a movement. Then came the school pilot. Talia pushed for testing in 3 Atlanta high schools with at-risk seniors. She and Jamal printed flyers and handed QR codes out near bus stops and football games. On a chilly Tuesday, Talia stood in a classroom at Langston Prep, projecting the app onto the board. She wore a blazer over her diner uniform, the only professional jacket she owned. "Ever wonder what happens when a landlord keeps your deposit?" she asked. A girl in back said, "They keep it. You can't do nothing." "That's what I thought," Talia replied, "until I learned the deadline. If they miss it, you can file a claim. No lawyer needed, just a form," she said. The class leaned in, not because they had to, but because they were finally being spoken to like they mattered. Afterward, one student stayed behind, tall, skinny, sad eyes, a tear-shaped scar on his cheek. "You really made this?" he asked. "Every word," Talia said. He swallowed. "My mom signed papers last year she didn't understand. Now we're getting evicted." Talia's chest tightened. "Show me what she signed," she said gently. "I'll walk you through it." He nodded, then whispered, "No one ever talks to us like we matter." The sentence hit harder than any insult Grant had thrown. That night, Talia sat on the fire escape, laptop balanced on her knees, throat burning. Grant called. "You okay?" Talia told him about the student, about the pilot, about users already engaging the beta. Grant's voice softened. You started something, Talia. Do you realize that? She stared at the city lights. I don't want it to be mine alone, she said. I want it to belong to every kid who ever signed something they didn't understand. Grant went quiet, then spoke carefully. Come in tomorrow. We're talking scaling, funding, and putting your name on the masthead. Sirens wailed in the distance. Talia felt exhausted to the bone, but alive in a way she hadn't in years. Okay, she whispered. But you better be ready to build something they can't ignore. From that moment, neither of them looked back. The sabotage started the way quiet sabotage always does. Soft, deniable, almost polite. A postponed meeting, a delayed file, passwords that mysteriously expired, calendar invites sent but never received. Talia saw the pattern in the second week after the school pilot went public. What had been momentum turned into sticky drag, like someone poured syrup into the gears. On Tuesday morning, she arrived at headquarters and found her access badge dead. The receptionist, painted nails, practiced indifference, looked up and said, You're not in the system this week. Talia kept her voice even. That's not possible. I have a standing pass. The receptionist's smile didn't reach her eyes. Sorry, you'll need clearance. An hour passed before facilities let her in. By then, the team meeting had started without her. Inside the lab, Victor Sloan stood at the whiteboard, marker in hand, leading a new discussion about narrowing the app's scope. The air felt colder. Talia, Victor said with a thin smile when she stepped in, glad you could join us. We're rethinking rollout strategy, liability concerns. Talia set her bag down. Whose concerns? Board members, investors, Victor said smoothly. They worry the language could be interpreted as legal advice. Talia folded her arms. It's education, public statutes, disclaimers on every module. Victor kept smiling like he was indulging a child. Even so, the company has a reputation. We should dial back school outreach and limit it to private beta testing. Talia's voice stayed calm, but it cut. No, those students are the reason this exists, she said. Scaling back doesn't protect the company, it protects old systems. Heads turned. Grant wasn't in the room. Victor clicked the marker cap closed and stepped closer, polite as poison. Look, Miss Brooks, we admire your passion, but this isn't a college project. There are legal boundaries you may not fully understand. Talia didn't move. I understand boundaries, she replied. I've lived inside them my whole life. Victor said nothing, just turned back to the board like her words were background noise. The meeting continued as if she hadn't spoken, but Talia felt it clearly now. This wasn't about liability, it was about control. That evening, she went to see Grant. By the time she reached his office, her anger had cooled into something sharper. Strategy. He's trying to choke this quietly, she said. Grant's eyes narrowed. I'll handle Victor. Talia shook her head once. No, you said I could earn this. Let me. She leaned in. But you need to be ready to back me loudly when he makes his next move. Grant stared at her for a long beat, then nodded. You'll have me, he said. Talia exhaled, a controlled release. She was done being surprised. She was done being delayed. Victor wasn't just stalling her. He was testing how small he could make her feel. And Talia Brooks was done shrinking for anyone in a tailored suit. In the days that followed, the pattern got bolder. Resources reassigned, emails unanswered, approvals lost. Victor's smile stayed in place, but it carried a warning. You don't belong in these rooms. Talia kept walking anyway, notes in hand, spine straight. She wasn't a guest. She was the builder. She just needed the right moment to prove it in front of everyone. Victor finally turned from the board, voice still wrapped in courtesy, and said, "We all respect your enthusiasm, Miss Brooks, but there are legal lines you may not fully grasp." Grant was in his corner office, sleeves rolled, eyes on data dashboards when Talia Brooks stepped in. He clocked the tension instantly. "They're trying to suffocate it," she said, dropping into the chair across from him. "Who?" Grant asked. "Victor Sloan, and whoever's hiding behind him," she answered. Grant leaned back. "Tell me everything." Talia laid it out. Her badge dying at the lobby, the meeting that started without her, the outreach reframed as preliminary exploration, the pilot demoted with one email. Grant rubbed his temple. "Victor's been with me since day one. He's cautious, not cruel." Talia's eyes hardened. "He's not cautious," she said. "He's scared." Her voice stayed calm, but it hit like steel. Scared of a black girl without a degree outshining his entire department. Scared of accountability. Grant didn't argue. He studied her a long moment, then nodded. "I'll handle it." Talia shook her head once. "No. Let me," she insisted. "I don't want this handed to me. I want to earn it." Grant hesitated, then leaned in. "Then what do you need from me?" Talia didn't blink. Backup, quiet, strong, immediate. The next morning she arrived early, set down donuts, glaze, fritters, powdered sugar without announcing herself. She smiled at Luis, nodded to the UX crew, plugged in her laptop, and started like the room already belonged to her. People trickled in, catching the shift in energy. Talia didn't ask permission. She launched her deck. "I want to show you what LegalLift really is," she began. "Not as risk, as human." She played a short testimonial reel. A Langston prep student, wide-eyed and soft-spoken. "This app helped my mom understand her lease. We stopped an eviction. I didn't know an app could do that." Another clip, a janitor fighting an illegal paycheck deduction. A single mom dodging a payday loan trap. Faces changed, but the pattern didn't. People once powerless now holding knowledge like armor. Silence settled heavy. Victor slipped in halfway through, stiff and uninvited, arms crossed in the back like a judge. Talia gestured at the screen. "This is why I'm not stepping back. Change isn't built by playing safe. You build it by facing discomfort." Victor stepped forward. "Talia, may I say something?" "No," she replied, simple as a door locking. "Not until I'm finished." Victor paused. She held his gaze until he stopped trying. Then the room shifted again. Grant entered, slow and deliberate, and took his place beside her without a word. Grant finally spoke to the room. "I've seen what she's building," he said, voice steady, "and I've never been more certain of anything." He turned slightly, letting his presence do the heavy lifting. "This company was founded on risk. If we retreat now, we betray our own legacy," Victor muttered. "Understood." Afterward, developers approached Talia. Nods, handshakes, real respect, instead of polite distance. One said, "My cousin needs this. Tell me how I can help." That night, walking home under buzzing streetlights, Talia thought about power. Not the kind locked in glass towers, but the kind built through action, trust, and refusal to disappear. Past midnight, Talia sat at her kitchen table, laptop casting a faint blue glow on yellowed apartment walls. Her mother slept in the next room. Jamal sprawled on the floor with headphones, grinding through geometry. Talia's fingers tapped in steady rhythm, page flips, chair creaks, and quiet determination filling every crack of silence. Her eyes were red from reading, not crying. She'd been dissecting the final merger agreement between Hawthorne Systems and Kessler Solutions, line by line, for hours. A schedule titled Contingency Triggers felt wrong. Too soft, too slippery. One paragraph stopped her cold. The word temporary sat there like a hidden blade. "Jamal," she said, gently tugging one earbud, "look at this sentence." He groaned. "Talia, I'm barely passing English. You think I know what market-based valuation means?" She smiled once, then pointed. "It means they can walk away if Grant's stock dips 7% even for 1 day. Temporary. 1 day is enough." Jamal blinked hard. "That's messed up." "Yeah," Talia whispered, "it is." Before sunrise, she was outside headquarters with coffee she didn't drink, watching the glass tower catch dawn like a warning flare. At 6:45 a.m., security opened the lobby. Talia moved fast. Elevator, badge, breath, purpose. Grant wasn't in yet, so she went straight to legal archives. With help from a sleepy intern, she pulled every contract version and tracked the clause's evolution. Earlier, drafts were clean. Then, 3 weeks ago, a revision from Kessler's side slid in one word: temporary, like a thief slipping a key into a pocket. One word: maximum damage. 00. Grant walked in mid-call, distracted, power in motion. He paused when he saw Talia already waiting. "Grant, 5 minutes," she said. He hung up instantly. "What's going on?" Talia placed the printed page in front of him. "Schedule F. This clause is a trap." He scanned, frowned. "I've seen this. Legal reviewed it." "They skimmed it," Talia said, voice flat. "Or they missed it on purpose. Read closer. If your stock dips for a day, Kessler can void the deal. No penalty, no consequences. They keep options open while you bleed in public." Grant's expression shifted, disbelief cracking into concern. Concern darkening into slow, simmering anger. "Why would they slip that in last minute?" Grant asked, more to the ceiling than her. "Because they're playing you," Talia replied. "They want you to announce the deal, then leak a rumor to trigger a temporary drop. They walk away clean, you take the bruises." Grant stared at the paper like it had teeth. "Listen carefully," Talia said, leaning in. "You renegotiate this now, or you're looking at a public takedown in 3 weeks." Grant walked to the window, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Why didn't Victor catch this?" Talia's answer came sharp. "Because he was too busy trying to lock me out of the building." Grant turned back, eyes hard with clarity. "This is why you're here," he said. "You saw what no one else could or no one else wanted to see." He didn't hesitate. He grabbed the office phone and dialed. "Emergency board session. Today. I want legal, PR, and M&A in the conference room by 10. We're rewriting this deal." Later, Talia sat at the end of the executive table, quiet and still. Her seat had no nameplate, but everyone knew exactly why she was there. Victor entered last, face tight, refusing to look her way. Grant opened without ceremony. "We're pulling Schedule F and redrafting the language. Talia Brooks found a loophole that could have sunk us." Silence snapped tight. Victor finally spoke, polite like a knife in a sleeve. "With respect, we vetted that clause thoroughly." Grant's voice cut through him. "No, you glossed it." He pointed at Talia's notes. "She caught what you didn't. From now on, all merger documentation passes through Talia's desk first." A ripple of stunned glances moved around the table. One board member, a woman in her mid-60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, Marjorie Klein, 66, leaned forward. "Miss Brooks," she said, measured and curious, "how did you learn to spot something like that?" Talia met her gaze calmly. because people like me don't get second chances. We have to read the fine print right the first time." Marjorie nodded once. "Good answer." After the meeting, Victor cornered Talia in the hallway, his smile thin. "Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts." Talia didn't flinch. "I don't need the spotlight," she said. "I've got the truth." His eyes narrowed. She added, "And I don't need a title to make a difference," then walked away. That evening, Grant found her in the lab, bent over her laptop again, shoulders tight with work. He placed a folder in front of her. "What's this?" she asked. "Your official appointment," he said, "Director of Legal Innovation. Effective immediately, full salary, full benefits." Talia opened it and stared at the letterhead like it might vanish. "I thought you said I didn't need a title," she said softly. Grant's reply was simple. "You don't, but they do." His eyes held steady. "Now they'll think twice before underestimating you again." Talia smiled, tired, grounded. "Thank you," she said. Then her voice sharpened. "But we're not done." Grant nodded. "We're just getting started." Talia's name hit the press before she could brace for it. It started with a tech gossip headline buried 3 clicks deep. Diner, waitress turned legal prodigy. Hawthorne's wild new bet. Then came tweets, LinkedIn sermons, think pieces. By midweek, her inbox was a wildfire. Some praised her as a new era. Others called it a staged diversity fairy tale. A few scoffed outright. Is this what tech has come to? No degree running legal innovation? Talia tried to ignore the noise. She poured herself into code freezes, UX testing, community partner training. LegalLift was days from launch, and the volume kept rising like a storm building pressure. Then investor relations emailed, "Urgent, Tier 1 concerns." The message was short and brutal. Several major stakeholders were uncomfortable with Talia's central role. They wanted clarification on credentials and whether she had the experience to lead something with reputational risk. Talia stared at the screen, unmoving, more exhausted than shocked. That night, in a closed-door meeting with Grant, counsel, and 2 board members, the truth spilled out in polished words. A man in a navy pinstripe suit with a Princeton lapel pin, Harrison Blakely, 45, spoke carefully. "We're not questioning her intelligence, but it's unprecedented. No degree, no traditional resume, and she'll be the face of our most visible launch in years." Talia's voice stayed calm. "Your real concern is I didn't come from your world, and I'm outperforming people who did." Harrison blinked. "That's not fair." "It's accurate," Talia replied. The general counsel, Lena Park, 44, cleared her throat. "Legally, there's no issue. Her title is valid. Her contributions are documented. IP filings are under her name. The backlash is emotional, not structural." The room went quiet enough to hear the air conditioning. Grant stood, finally letting his voice cut the tension clean. "I backed Talia because she saw what none of you saw. She saved this company from a billion-dollar sinkhole. She turned a half-baked pitch deck concept into a living product." He looked directly at the board. "If anyone forces me to choose between her and donors afraid of change, I will choose her every time." Silence. Talia looked down at her hands, trembling. She folded them into her lap, fighting the sudden flood of adrenaline and fatigue. After the meeting, Grant found her in the hallway. "You okay?" "No," she admitted, honest as a bruise. Grant nodded. "Good, you shouldn't be. You're carrying more than you should have to." Talia's voice dropped to a whisper. "They don't see me, not really." Grant's eyes softened, then sharpened. "Oh, they see you," he said. "They're just terrified of what you mean." That night, she returned to the lab but didn't code. She sat at the far window, staring down at the city glittering like shattered glass. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jamal. Saw the news. Don't let them talk slick. You're the real deal. Always were. Talia smiled. Small, stubborn. Then she stood, walked to the whiteboard, and wrote 3 words in heavy marker. Launch on time. The letters looked like a vow. She wiped her palms on her jeans and breathed. The next morning, PR handed her a revised launch script. Polished, sterile, safe. She read it once, then set it down gently like it was poisonous. No, she said. A PR exec tried to smile. We just want to avoid controversy. Talia's gaze stayed steady. Justice is always controversial, she replied. That's the point. She wrote her own speech that night, not for approval, for truth. Launch day, the auditorium filled. Reporters, developers, school leaders, community organizers, investors. Grant opened with a short welcome, then stepped aside. Talia walked out alone. No music, no fanfare. Just a microphone and the weight of eyes that wanted to measure her. Good morning, she began, voice steady. My name is Talia Brooks. I grew up 6 blocks from here. I've waited tables, changed bandages for my mother, and fought to keep my little brother in school. She paused. Now, I helped build something that doesn't belong to a boardroom. It belongs to everyone who signed something they didn't understand and paid for it. She let the silence work. LegalLift isn't just an app, she said. It's a flashlight in a room most people don't even know they're locked inside. The crowd held its breath. This isn't about me. I don't need applause. I need you to listen to what happens when people get tools they were never meant to touch and use them to stand taller. She finished simply. Justice shouldn't be reserved for the fluent. It belongs to all of us. Today, we begin proving that. When she stepped off stage, the quiet broke into a roar. Phones flashing, reporters shouting, people standing not out of courtesy but belief. Talia didn't smile right away. She wasn't done. Work was waiting in the wings. 2 hours after launch, she sat alone in a side conference room. The cheers had faded, cameras gone, but her heartbeat still ran hot. She'd spoken from the marrow in front of skeptics and decision-makers. Now came the harder part. Attention. A knock broke the quiet. Luis stepped in holding a tablet, eyes wide. You need to see this, he said. We're trending. He turned the screen toward her. A major tech outlet's homepage showed a photo of Talia at the podium. Headline, The future of law is here, and she wears sneakers. The embedded clip had already crossed 1 million views. Comments flooded. Praise, awe, and venom. Affirmative action. Where's her degree? Media stunt. Talia handed the tablet back. I don't care about trending, she said. Luis smiled. That's why you are. Talia checked her phone. Over 100 texts. Journalists, old classmates, strangers, even a message from her high school debate coach. Told you the fire was real. She scrolled until one name stopped her thumb. Grant Hawthorne. His message was short. Board wants a meeting today. You ready? Her fingers hovered. Then she typed, Always. 00 p.m. She was back in the boardroom. This time, they were waiting. Grant stood as she entered and nodded toward the head of the table. That seat's yours today. Talia sat straight, shoulders squared. She wasn't pretending anymore. She'd already walked into the storm and spoken. Now she intended to steer the wind. Marjorie Klein cleared her throat. Ms. Brooks, the response has been overwhelming. Investors are calling, community leaders, even the mayor's office. There's federal curiosity. Talia nodded. I understand, Marjorie continued carefully. Some feel it may be prudent to bring in external leadership, someone with policy experience, to co-lead with you. Talia let the suggestion hang, then answered evenly. I appreciate the concern, but I'll remind you, I've led every decision this product has made. Not from guesswork, from necessity. She held the room with her eyes. I built LegalLift because I lived the gap it's closing. I won't be managed into silence by a co-leader with no skin in this fight. A younger board member leaned forward. But with federal contracts looming, then it's more important than ever. Talia cut in, calm but firm. That leadership is grounded in the lives this tool touches, not just fluent in systems. Grant stayed quiet, but his gaze carried proud certainty. Marjorie folded her hands. Then we'll follow your lead, she said. But prepare, the next weeks won't be easy. After the meeting, walking the corridors, Talia noticed something strange. People smiled at her, warmly, not awkwardly, like they finally saw a leader instead of an exception. She returned to the lab and found a small cluster around the main monitor. Luis looked up. You're going to want this. A breaking news banner rolled. Federal office reaches out to LegalLift for National Digital Literacy Pilot. Talia stared. Is this real? Luis nodded. They want an adapted version for community centers. Free. The room buzzed. Joy, panic, possibility. Talia didn't smile yet. She stepped outside into the alley behind the building, wind cold against her cheeks, and dialed a number she hadn't used in months. The voice that answered sounded cautious but familiar. Hello? Professor Denise Carver, Talia said. It's Talia Brooks. Remember me? A pause, then warmth. Of course I remember. I heard your speech. Denise was her former pre-law mentor at Emory, the woman who once told her she had the sharpest mind in the freshman class, before life forced Talia to disappear without goodbye. I didn't finish what I started, Talia said quietly. Denise replied, soft but certain. You finished something bigger. Talia swallowed. I want to come back, not because I need the degree to prove anything, because I want to finish on my terms. Denise went silent for a beat, then said, Your seat is still here, it always was. Talia ended the call and looked up at a sky of gray clouds split by a thin strip of gold. That night, she returned home to find Jamal on the couch replaying her launch speech like it was a song. You really said all that? He asked, eyes wide. And I meant every word, she said. Jamal grinned. I told my teacher my sister made an app that might end up on the president's phone. Talia laughed, soft and disbelieving. That's probably the first time I've ever made national news in a hoodie and no makeup. Jamal leaned his head on her shoulder. Still looked like a boss. Talia closed her eyes and let the moment settle in. Quiet, heavy, real. I'm not here because someone handed me a seat, she murmured. Jamal didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth lived in the apartment walls. The Vicks, the late nights, the duct-taped Chromebook, the bills stacked like threats. Talia breathed out slowly. She was here because she built her own footing when the world offered none. And now, everybody wanted to measure her steps. Nearly a year to the day since she'd slid that first contract across a diner counter and dared a tech titan to take her seriously, Talia stood on a makeshift stage in a Birmingham community center. Rows of kids, parents, teachers, elders in Sunday best on a Wednesday watched her like she was equal parts teacher and uprising. She inhaled, steadying the room with her voice. Behind her hung a banner in bold blue letters. LegalLift, free legal education for everyone. The mayor sat front row, along with a pastor and 2 members of Congress. But Talia focused on the young faces, wide-eyed, hungry, tired of being tricked. She leaned into the mic. You ever been told to sign something without knowing what it meant? A murmur of yes rippled like a wave. One man called, More times than I can count. Talia nodded. LegalLift started because I watched my own mom sign a medical payment plan she didn't understand. She paused. I watched neighbors get evicted, trapped, arrested, because nobody translated the fine print into human language. The crowd clapped, soft but honest. So I started asking questions, she said, and I built a tool that answers back. Now, she continued, with partners across the country, LegalLift is live in 27 states. Libraries, classrooms, probation offices, shelters. She named them like milestones carved into stone. But more than anything, she said, eyes locking on a cluster of teens in hoodies, it's in your hands. That's where it belongs. The room leaned forward like it could feel power becoming portable. After the talk, a line formed. Questions, hugs, stories. A single mom asked about fighting a predatory rent-to-own contract. A retired trucker wanted to challenge a traffic fine. A teenager said the app finally explained the difference between a warrant and intimidation. Talia stayed until every question was answered, every person treated like they mattered. When the last handshake ended, she stepped out back and breathed the thick southern air. Grant waited by the car, smiling like he'd been holding pride in his chest all day. You know, you just made 3 politicians cry in public, right? He teased. Talia rolled her eyes. They'll survive. Grant handed her a cold bottle of sweet tea. You good? Better than good, she said. Grant's smile shifted, serious now. There's something else, he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. Open it. Inside was a handwritten letter on cream paper. Talia read the first line and froze. Dear Miss Brooks, we are proud to inform you your re-enrollment at Emory University has been approved with full scholarship. Her throat tightened. The next line hit even harder. The Law and Social Change Fellowship will now bear your name. Talia stared at the page like it was unreal. You did this? She asked, voice thin. Grant shook his head. No, he said. You did this. I just made a few calls to make sure the world kept up. Talia blinked fast, then pressed the letter to her chest. I want to finish, she whispered. Not for the degree, for the journey. Grant's voice softened. You've already taught more law than most professors ever will. But yeah, finish it. Her breath came out shaky, but her spine stayed straight. That fall, she walked into her first class as a returning student. No cameras, no headlines, just a spiral notebook and the same stubborn hunger that used to keep her reading contracts behind a diner counter. She also launched the Second Look Foundation, a nonprofit funding legal literacy grants for underserved youth. The slogan was simple, read it again, this time with power. LegalLift kept growing while she kept learning on her terms. In the months that followed, Talia testified before Congress about digital access to legal rights. She visited juvenile detention centers. She stood beside survivors of wage theft, housing fraud, and system-made silence. Every time she refused the savior posture. She was never there to rescue. She was there to hand over tools, flashlights, and remind people they could stand taller themselves. The movement didn't need a hero. It needed thousands of informed hands. One night, just before Christmas, Talia returned to Old Town Cafe, the original. Same chipped tiles, same flickering neon, same smell of coffee and grease like memory. She slid into the booth where it started. Grant joined her, setting down 2 mugs of black coffee. You ever think it would come to this? He asked. Talia looked around the room. "I didn't think it would go anywhere," she admitted. Grant nodded. "Funny. Neither did I." They sat in a quiet that felt earned. Grant tilted his mug. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Taking the bet on you?" Talia smiled. "You weren't the bet," she said. The truth was. Grant's eyes warmed. From behind the counter, a new waitress approached. Young, nervous, hair in a puff, notepad shaking. She recognized Talia instantly and swallowed hard. "2 coffees?" she stammered. "Sorry, you're her, right? The APP lady?" Talia grinned. "I am." The girl's voice rushed out. "My aunt used your app. She got her job back after they fired her wrong." Talia reached across and took the girl's hand gently, grounding her. "Tell your aunt she did it," Talia said. "I just handed her the flashlight." The waitress nodded like she'd been given permission to breathe, then hurried away with a smile she couldn't hide. Grant lifted his mug. "To the ones who never got a second look," he said. Talia raised hers. "And to the ones who made them look again," she replied. Their mugs clinked. No cameras, no applause, just a quiet sound in a small diner that had once held a billion-dollar lesson. Outside, the city lights blinked steady, patient, like they'd been waiting to witness something human. Grant leaned back and scanned the cafe, the ordinary becoming sacred in hindsight. "You know," he said, "I used to think power was about winning rooms." Talia's eyes stayed on the counter where she once stood invisible. "Power is also about refusing to leave," she said. "Refusing to be edited out." Grant nodded slowly, like he was still learning her language. "You rewrote the terms," he said. Talia shrugged. "I just stopped signing what was written for me." A soft Motown track hummed from the jukebox, and for a moment the world felt almost gentle. Grant's voice dropped. "They tried to break you with doubt." Talia's smile was thin but real. "Doubt's cheap," she said. "I grew up paying in real currency." She glanced at her phone. Messages still popping. Requests still coming. Need still endless. But tonight she let herself sit. "Tomorrow," she said, "we build again." The new waitress returned with their refills, shoulders a little straighter now, like courage was contagious. Talia thanked her, watching the girl walk away with something brighter than tips, belief. Grant watched Talia quietly. "You changed more than contracts," he said. Talia looked around at the booth, the neon, the ordinary miracle of being seen. "No," she said. "People change themselves. I just helped them read the door." They clinked mugs one more time. Quiet, steady, unbreakable. Outside, Atlanta moved on as always, sirens, headlights, winter wind. Inside, under flickering neon and old coffee, the real legacy lived. A tool in the hands of people once told not to ask questions, and a young woman who finally made the world look again. Some people survive a close call and become smaller, more paranoid, more bitter, more sealed off. But the most meaningful turn in this story isn't the arrests or the indictments. It's what Grant does with the aftermath. He looks at Ava and sees a truth that's easy to miss. Bravery comes with a cost, especially for a child. Once she speaks, she becomes a target of criminals, of smear campaigns, of experts who want to rewrite her truth into something convenient. If you're a grandparent, you felt that in your bones. You know the world can be cruel when a young person stands out. Grant's real growth shows up when he decides Ava won't be a disposable hero in someone else's press cycle. He moves her and her grandmother to safety. He puts protection in writing. He changes policy inside his company so that future warnings don't die in someone's inbox. That's what legacy looks like at any age. Not the size of your bank account, but the size of your responsibility. Many of you have spent decades taking care of others, raising kids, serving communities, keeping families afloat when times were tight. You understand that the right thing isn't a speech. It's what you do on an ordinary Tuesday when the cameras are gone. Ava saved Grant's life with a shout. Grant honors that by making sure her voice doesn't get punished for being honest. Power comes from reading the fine print and refusing to shrink. When gatekeepers stalled, Talia stayed steady, rebuilt the deal, and turned a duct-taped Chromebook into a flashlight for millions. For those of us over 65, it's a reminder. Dignity isn't granted. It's claimed, one brave decision at a time. After hearing Talia's story, let me ask you this. Have you ever been underestimated? At work, at church, or just trying to stretch $20 for the week, then proved someone wrong with quiet skill? If you'd been in that booth, would you have helped Grant anyway, or let him learn the hard way? Drop your answer in your city in the comments. If you want more stories and life lessons made for folks 65 and up, please tap like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend who needs hope, plain talk, and courage today, every week on here.